If you'd like to learn how to loosen tight, stiff hamstring muscles, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and today I'm going to tell you, number one, why the hamstring muscles are some of the most overrated muscles as it comes to back pain and sciatica. Number two, how to tell if you actually need to stretch your hamstrings. And number three, some new ways to do it that you may not have seen before that'll target the parts of your hamstrings that actually need to be stretched. So number one, I just want to show you a little bit about the hamstrings, and then we'll get into the testing as to how to tell if you actually need to stretch them. So the hamstrings, there are actually three muscles that are down the back of your legs. There are two on the inside of your leg and one that is on the outside. And you can kind of see the tendons in the back of your knees. You have one set of tendons that goes over there and one set of tendons that goes over there. Now, most people aren't tight in their entire hamstring muscle. It's usually more one or the other, and more commonly than not, it's the inner hamstrings. So the test to check if your hamstrings are actually tight and need to be stretched is as follows. So you lay down on your back, bring one knee up to about 90 degrees, and keep your low back flat on the table. Then you want to straighten that knee out as much as you can. Now, if you can get up to 90 degrees or close to that, then you probably don't need to stretch your hamstring muscles. Even if you can only get about 10 degrees shy, this is still a pretty normal test. Now, there are a lot of people who say that their hamstrings feel tight or stiff, gymnasts, runners, cheerleaders, who can bring their legs all the way back up there, but still think that their hamstrings feel tight. But if your hamstrings feel tight, but they test normally, you may not need to stretch them, because continuing to stretch back that way will actually overstretch your sciatic nerve and can potentially make things worse. However, if you do need to stretch, here's an innovative way to do it. Sitting up on the side of the table, you want to keep your back fairly upright. You don't want to lean forward like the old runner stretch like that, because that stretches your low back and your sciatic nerve out completely. You want to try to keep your low back in a fairly neutral position, keep your trunk upright, and just lean forward like this. And that will stretch your entire hamstring muscle. Now, like I mentioned before, there are two parts, the inner and the outer. And oftentimes the inner part is tighter and what needs to be stretched more. The way to test that again would be with the same basic test, laying down and straightening your knee out. But you may notice if you turn your knee inwards, you can go to a certain extent. And if you turn your knee outwards, you can go either farther or less far. For a lot of people, you'll be able to go pretty far with your knee turned in like that. But if you have trouble turning out and you can't go as far that way, this would be the variation of the stretch for that. So you sit up like this, and you'll turn your knee out a little bit, kind of like the test position. You'll turn the knee to the outside, keep your trunk upright again, and then lean forward and put just a little bit of pressure on the inner side of your knee to keep your knee turned outwards. And that will put more stretch on the inner hamstring muscle. Now, in the case that your outer hamstring would be tighter, which is less common, you just do the opposite. You turn your toes inwards, that puts more stretch on the outer hamstring, and you lean forward like that with your trunk straight. So those are just a couple different variations of the hamstring stretch. If you found this video helpful, click the subscribe button at the bottom of this video to get notified of our future tips.